It's funny. You could spend like 10 years perfecting your English vocabulary, just mastering all these complex grammar structures, polishing your accent, and then bam, you instantly give away that you aren't a native speaker with a tiny two-letter word.
Oh, yeah. It happens all the time, literally every day.
It's so relatable. You find yourself just frozen in a conversation wondering, am I sitting in a bus or on a bus? Am I waiting for my friend or at my friend? So today we are cracking the code on English prepositions.
It really is the ultimate frustration for language learners. I mean, prepositions are these tiny, seemingly invisible words, but they are incredibly dense. They carry an enormous amount of structural weight in a sentence.
Yeah, they really do.
They aren't just random grammar rules to memorize on a flashcard. They're actually the fundamental coordinates we use to map our reality. Like, they dictate how we interact with time, how we move through physical space, and even how abstract concepts relate to one another.
Which is exactly why today's deep dive is curated specifically for you, the listener. Because the goal here isn't just to, throw a textbook list of words at you and say, good luck.
Right, that never works anyway.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to build a complete learner progress roadmap. A mental framework to actually understand the logic behind these choices so you can sound more natural, accurate, and fluent, whether you are having a casual coffee or leading a high-stakes board meeting.
I love that approach. Any good roadmap really has to start with a solid foundation.
Right, so let's start with the absolute foundation, orienting ourselves in time and space, the big three, right? In, on, and at.
Yeah, the big three. And to understand these, you really have to stop looking at them as direct translations of words from your native language.
Which is what everyone does first.
Of course, it's a natural instinct. But you have to start looking at them as markers of scale. It's all about the size of the container, basically. Let's look at time first. When you are dealing with a large general period of time, like months, years, or centuries, English treats that time as a massive three-dimensional container.
Okay, a massive container.
Yeah, so you are entirely enveloped by it. Because of that, you use in. You say in January, in 1999, or in the summer.
Because you are physically inside the year, metaphorically speaking.
Absolutely, you're inside it. But as you shrink the scale down to specific days and dates, the container kind of flattens out in the native speaker's mind.
Wait, it flattens out.
Yeah, a day feels more like a two-dimensional square on a calendar, so you are no longer inside it, you're resting on top of it. It becomes on Monday or on December 25th.
Okay, that actually makes so much sense. I never thought about it like a flat surface on a calendar.
It really helps visualize it.
So then I'm guessing at is when you shrink it down even further, like extremely small.
Exactly. When you get to the most precise level, like a specific hour or minute on a clock, it completely ceases to be a container or a surface. It becomes a single pinpoint dot on a timeline. So we use at $7, at midnight, or even a pinpoint holiday period, like at Christmas. The logic is entirely based on zooming from broad to hyper-specific.
Wow, it's literally just like adjusting a zoom lens on a camera.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, like in is your wide-angle landscape shot. It captures the whole year, the whole season, a massive field of view.
Yeah.
Then you adjust the dial, and on zooms into a medium shot of one specific day on the calendar.
Yeah.
And finally, at is the extreme close-up macro lens on the exact minute on the clock.
I love that visual. The zoom lens analogy captures the cognitive psychology perfectly. And what's fascinating is that native speakers use this exact same zoom lens logic to map physical locations, too. It's not just for time.
Wait, really? So it maps perfectly from abstract time over to physical space?
It does. Think about your wide-angle lens again. You use in for large areas with boundaries or enclosed spaces. Like you live in England, you sit in a room, you're in a car, you are inside the three-dimensional container.
Right, the wide angle.
Then you zoom in to a medium shot for surfaces or lines. A book is on the table, or you live on Baker Street.
Oh, because a street is a line. It's a flat surface on the ground.
Right. And then you turn that lens to the extreme close-up for specific points and exact addresses. You are waiting at the bus stop, or you live at 34 Baker Street.
This completely demystifies it.
Yeah.
But, before we move away from time entirely, I want to touch on a few advanced time rules that seem pretty critical, especially for professional settings.
Oh, absolutely. The business context changes the stakes.
Yeah, because if you misuse the big three, you might just sound a little unnatural. But if you misuse words like by and until, you could literally ruin a business deal.
That is a very real risk, yeah. Let's distinguish those clearly, because learners trip up on them all the time. By is a strict limit. It means on or before a deadline.
A deadline. Got it.
Right. So if a client says, I need this contract by Friday, Friday is the absolute wall. If you send it Saturday, you failed.
Right, which is fundamentally different from until. I- I've actually heard non-native colleagues say things like, please finish this report until Friday, and it always sounds incredibly confusing.
Because until implies continuous, uninterrupted action up to a specific point, not a deadline for a single delivery. Like you work until midnight, you sleep until noon. You don't submit a report until Friday. You submit it by Friday.
Ah, okay. That's a massive difference. And we also have for and during, which I think learners mix up because they both deal with blocks of time.
Very common mix-up.
But, well, for measures the duration,
Yeah.
right? The actual length of the time. Like we talked for 3 hours.
Exactly.
Whereas during just tells you when an event happened within a larger block of time. So the fire alarm went off during the meeting.
You nailed it. For answers the question how long, while during answers the question when. Getting those right instantly elevates the clarity of your professional communication.
Okay, so the zoom lens framework works perfectly when things are standing still. We can pinpoint time on a clock or a house on a street. But what happens when we start moving around? Because the moment human beings start traveling, the language has to stretch to accommodate that motion, right?
Without a doubt. This is where I think the biggest traps lie for learners.
Yeah, it gets tricky.
When we transition from static location to active movement, the prepositions completely shift. The fundamental mechanism here is that English uses to indicate the journey toward a destination, whereas in or at only describe the static state of already being there.
So saying I am going to France captures the journey, but I live in France captures the static position.
Right. But here's the massive trap that so many people fall into, and it's entirely understandable because of how other languages work. I am talking about the verb arrive. You hear learners constantly say, I arrived to London, or we arrived to the hotel.
Honestly, I always assumed arrive to made sense logically. I mean, you are traveling to a place. You're completing a journey to a destination. Why does English suddenly reject the word to right there?
It's weird, right? It's because English cognitive grammar treats the verb arrive not as an action of traveling, but as a state of completion.
A state of completion.
Yes. When you are arriving, the journey is over. The language strips away the movement and focuses entirely on the endpoint. Since you are now in a static position at your destination, you revert back to our zoom lens rules for static space.
Ah, so you don't use movement words at all. You just use the static containers.
Exactly. If your destination is a large area, like a city or country, you use the wide-angle lens, so you arrive in London or arrive in Japan.
Gotcha.
If your destination is a specific building or point, you use the extreme close-up. You arrive at the hotel or arrive at the conference, but you never ever say arrive to.
Wow, that distinction, the state of completion versus the journey, is fascinating. But wait, what about the word home? Because home seems to reject every single rule we just laid out. Like, I
Yeah.
go home, I arrive home, I don't go to home.
Yeah, home is a brilliant outlier. In English, when it's used with verbs of movement like go, come, walk, or arrive, the word home ceases to function purely as a noun.
What does it become?
It morphs into an adverb of direction. You aren't just going to a physical building, you are traveling homeward.
Oh, homeward.
Right. Because it's acting as a directional adverb, it doesn't need a preposition to stick it to the verb. You just go home.
But what if I'm just sitting on my sofa doing nothing?
Then there is no movement. You are dealing with static location and the verb be. So you go back to the standard rules. I am at home.
Okay, let's look at another nuance that I know trips people up. In versus into. If I am walking through a doorway, am I walking in the room or into the room?
Yeah.
Like, does it actually matter?
It matters deeply for your level of fluency. Formally, and for the highest level of accuracy, you must use into.
Into.
Okay. Yeah. Into is a compound preposition specifically engineered to show movement from the outside to the inside of a container. So, she walked into the room. In merely describes position.
But wait, I hear native speakers substitute this in casual speech all the time.
Yep.
People constantly say, come in the house or put the groceries in the fridge.
Oh, you absolutely do. In very casual, rapid speech, native speakers get lazy, they drop the to, and they rely on the verb itself to imply the movement.
Right, because put already implies movement.
Exactly. But if you want to sound educated, precise, and definitively fluent, especially in writing or professional speaking, you should stick with into for movement. He stepped into the office. It provides a much cleaner, more unambiguous sentence.
And the reverse of that would be out of, right? Like she got out of the car.
Exactly.
Which actually brings up a completely wild mechanical rule about transportation that I never realized until we started prepping for this deep dive.
Oh, the vehicle rules.
Yes. If it's a car, you get into it and out of it. But if it's a bus, a train, or an airplane, you get on it and off it. Why in the world do we use surface rules for a bus, but container rules for a car? I mean, you are physically inside both of them.
It is a wonderful quirk of human psychology. It really comes down to whether or not you can walk upright.
Walk upright.
Yeah. In cognitive linguistics, if a vehicle is large enough that it has a deck or a floor, you can stand up and walk across like a bus, a train, a plane, or a ship. Our brains basically categorize it as a surface. So you step on a bus.
But a car or a taxi?
You have to crouch and fold your body to enter them. You can't stand upright. So our brains categorize them strictly as enclosed containers. Therefore, you climb into a car or a taxi. The physical reality of how your body interacts with the space completely dictates the grammar.
That is absolutely mind-blowing. Literally, our bodies dictate the grammar.
Okay, so we've covered physical movement through literal space. Let's transition to something a bit more abstract now, because movement isn't just physical. Words themselves seem to gravitate toward each other. Yes, we are entering the realm of dependent prepositions.
Dependent prepositions.
Right. This is where the logic of physical space gives way to strict grammatical partnerships. Certain verbs and adjectives form non-negotiable bonds with specific prepositions. The verb basically demands a particular partner to complete its meaning.
It feels exactly like a buddy cop movie.
A buddy cop movie.
Yeah, think about it. The verb is the main character. It's the hotshot detective driving all the action in the sentence. But the preposition is the loyal partner, keeping it grounded, giving it the necessary context to do its job. And if you swap the partner out for someone else, the entire plot of the movie changes.
That's a highly effective way to visualize it. I love that. Let's look at some of these partnerships. With adjectives, you have pairings like being good at drawing or afraid of spiders. A city is famous for its architecture, or you are married to a doctor.
Wait, let's pause on that last one. So many people say married with a doctor, presumably because with implies togetherness, right?
Exactly. They translate the logic directly from their mother tongue. In many languages, the equivalent of with is used there. But in English, the partnership is exclusively married to. The bond is fixed.
So no matter what, it's married to.
Yes, and it works exactly the same way for verbs. You believe in a cause. You don't believe on a cause. You care about your local environment. A book belongs to you.
But just like in a movie, the detective might change their strategy depending on who they are interrogating, right?
Yeah.
So the partners can shift.
They can, and when the partner shifts, the fundamental meaning of the sentence shifts with it. Take the verb apologize. You apologize for an action, like I apologize for the delay.
Okay.
But you apologize to a person. I apologize to the board of directors.
So if you say, I apologize for the board of directors,
Yeah.
you're essentially saying you are sorry that the board of directors even exists.
Precisely. You have entirely changed the object of the sentence. The plot has completely flipped. We see this with the verb wait, too.
Oh, waiting for someone versus waiting somewhere.
Exactly. If you wait for your colleague, you are anticipating their arrival. But if you wait at the restaurant, you are just describing your geographical coordinates.
Or what about the verb agree, which is basically a minefield in a business negotiation?
A total minefield. If you get this wrong, it's bad. If you agree with the person, it means you share their philosophy or opinion.
Right.
If you agree to their demands, it means you are accepting their terms, even if you don't actually like them.
Okay, so accepting terms is agree to.
Yes, but if you agree on a timeline, it means you have mutually decided on a shared parameter. Swap those around in a contract negotiation, and you are going to have a very bad time.
Yikes. Yeah, I can see that. Are there any verbs where the preposition doesn't matter, where the partners are totally interchangeable?
It is extremely rare, but yes, a few exist. Dream is the classic exception. You can dream of expanding your business, or you can dream about expanding your business. The semantic meaning is virtually identical.
But learners shouldn't rely on that freedom, right?
Absolutely not. Do not assume prepositions are interchangeable. For instance, in an academic or professional context, you specialize in a field like corporate law. You never specialize on it. The bond is strict, and breaking it immediately flags you as an outsider to the language.
Which brings us perfectly to the final phase of building this mental framework. Taking all these mechanics, the zoom lens, the movement rules, the buddy cop-dependent verbs, and using them to project absolute authority.
Yes, the fluency aspect.
Because I've noticed that in the professional world, if you use the wrong preposition, you immediately sound less competent. Saying, I am on charge of this project, instead of in charge of, completely undermines your credibility before you even finish the sentence.
It really does. Mastering prepositional idioms is the ultimate signal of fluency. It shows you don't just know the words, you know the music of the language. Let's look at how these function in a corporate setting.
Yeah, let's hear some examples.
As you mentioned, a manager is in charge of a team. If the financials are poor, the company is in debt.
And if you want to leave that struggling company, you apply for a new role. You might have to speak on behalf of your department during the transition. You need to verify that all the hardware is in working order.
Great examples. And if someone suggests a terrible idea during that transition, you tell them it is out of the question.
Right. Doesn't mean it's literally outside a physical question mark.
No, it's an idiom, meaning the idea is impossible to entertain. We also use things like out of the blue when something happens unexpectedly, or doing something in a hurry, or knowing a presentation by heart, or performing well under pressure.
What about written communication? Like academic writing, reports, white papers? How do prepositions change the tone there?
In high-level writing, prepositional phrases act as cognitive signposts. They guide the reader's brain through your argument.
Cognitive signposts. I like that.
Yeah. If you want to summarize, you signal that by saying, in brief. If you are analyzing a flaw, you contrast theory with reality by writing, in practice. You provide evidence by using, for instance. You promise thoroughness by stating you will examine the data in detail. These phrases make your writing cohesive, authoritative, and perfectly to the point.
Okay, I have a major question here. We have just explored the mechanics of time and space containers, the psychology of walking onto vehicles, shifting verb meanings, and a massive list of idioms.
It's a lot.
It's a huge amount. There are thousands of these combinations. Please tell me we aren't suggesting that a learner needs to sit at a desk with a stack of 3,000 flashcards trying to memorize these by brute force.
I would strongly advise against that. Flashcards are terrible for this.
Oh, thank goodness. Why are they terrible?
Because they strip away the one thing that makes prepositions work. Context. You cannot learn how to orient yourself in space by looking at a word in a vacuum. It just doesn't work.
So what is the actual daily practice plan? How does someone take this framework we built and make it instinctive?
The secret is active, intentional exposure. Your daily routine should be what I call a contextual treasure hunt.
A contextual treasure hunt. Okay, how does that work?
Spend 15 minutes a day consuming high-quality English media. A news article, an academic journal, a business podcast, whatever interests you. But don't just read for the story. Read specifically to hunt down these buddy cop partnerships in their natural habitat.
You are actively looking for the glue.
Yes, exactly. When a journalist writes that an executive stepped into a new role, highlight it. Notice how the podcast host promises to explain a concept in detail. When you see these prepositions functioning within the architecture of a full sentence, your brain naturally absorbs the pattern. You stop translating rules and you start absorbing the rhythm.
It's like learning to play a song by listening to the melody rather than staring at sheet music.
Exactly. Start with the foundation. Consciously observe how native speakers use in, on, and at for time and space. Look for the zoom lens.
Right, the wide angle versus the close-up.
Then move to tracking verbs of motion. Watch how people use to versus into. Then start collecting those verb pairings and professional idioms. Over time, the correct choice will simply sound right to you without you having to think about the underlying rule.
I love that approach. It's so much less intimidating.
It really is.
We've built an incredible framework today. We started with the idea of zooming in on our reality, moving from broad years and enclosed containers down to specific days and flat surfaces, and finally to pinpoint times and addresses.
Yeah.
We realized that our very ability to walk upright dictates how we talk about vehicles,
Yeah.
and that English focuses on the static completion of arriving rather than the journey.
And we saw how verbs demand specific partners to survive, and how mastering corporate idioms allows you to project total authority.
It is a totally different way of looking at these tiny, frustrating words.
It is. And I want to leave you with one final thought to explore on your own.
Oh, let's hear it.
We've spent this entire time talking about how we use prepositions to describe our physical world. But in linguistics, there is a concept that language actually shapes our reality.
Shapes our reality.
Yeah, think about it. If you are forced, every single time you speak, To mentally categorize a year as a 3D container, a day as a 2D surface, and a minute as a pinpoint dot. How does that fundamentally rewire the way your brain perceives time itself?
Oh, well.
Do these tiny words just describe our reality, or do they actually build the architecture of our thoughts?
That is an incredible thing to think about. You weren't just learning grammar. You were learning how an entire culture maps its universe. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take this framework, start your daily contextual treasure hunt, and start spotting those prepositions in the wild today. Next time you're waiting at the bus stop, you will know exactly where you stand. See you next time.